Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going over a poll from the Trafalgar group going on between the Georgia statewide Senate races that are coming up in a few weeks. And I've been doing a lot of Georgia coverage lately, and I thought it'd be interesting to go over a poll by Trafalgar, who they are considered a Republican-leaning polling group, meaning they're polling on behalf of the Republican candidates. However, I do think that even in polls that are biased, that do show a bias, I think there's relevant information to learn from it, such as if a certain candidate is losing in a political party poll, then you'll probably know they're going to lose the election. Like if a Democrat's losing a Democrat poll or a Republican poll, vice versa. So I do think Trafalgar, they've gotten some stuff right. They got some stuff right in 2020. Not everything, but just because they're biased doesn't mean they're not credible. Just as I would say this for, say, some other polls that maybe are Democratic or are Democratic leaning despite not saying they are. Like, there's many other polls like this, but I still think it's interesting to take a look at these types of polls. So moving on to Georgia, they polled 1,064 respondents throughout the state of Georgia. They were likely 2020 general election voters, so that's an important characterization. Not They don't give really much specifics on whether or not they're registered or whether they're not registered. They said they're likely voters. The response rate was 1.42%. Margin of error was 2.93%. So I usually round it up to about 3% to adjust for any rounding errors or just in case of any false information or lies. 3% is probably safe in this regard. Confidence in their poll, 95%. Response distribution, 50%. So get all that stuff out of the way. This is the first race, David Perdue versus John Ossoff. David Perdue has 47.5 solid percentage points for him. David Perdue has 47.5% solid support. John Ossoff has 42.5 solid support, with David Perdue having 2.7 leaning support and John Ossoff having 5% leaning support, with 2.3% undecided. Now, for me, what I noticed from this is important. Typically, whatever candidate has more solid support is generally favored in an election. Because when you're running for office, you want voters to be enthused to go out and vote for you. When voters are passionate and enthusiastic, that means they want to go out and vote. They want to go out and campaign for you. They have energy. They're excited to vote. And typically, when there's more support for one candidate, that means their supporters are more energized. I think David Perdue will absolutely get the 47.5%. John Ossoff will get that 42.5%. I just think that when there's a bigger percentage, there's a 5% gap where there are 5% more Republicans energized to vote for David Perdue than compared to John Ossoff, which is not necessarily the great things for Ossoff, where while Joe Biden did win the state of Georgia, it is still a Republican state at heart, with a Republican governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and currently 2 senators. We'll see if that changes. But it might have voted for Biden by 0.25%, but it is still technically a Republican state. So if you're John Ossoff, you're hoping the 5% leaning Ossoff is good, but David Perdue with the leaning votes is at 50.2%. According to Georgia law, that is enough for David Perdue to win, and he does have more than 50% of the vote. So if you're John Ossoff, you were hoping if Perdue has 47.5, you have near 45, 46% solid percent support. That way, there isn't really much room for growth for Perdue or Ossoff. It's a very close, contentious race. Now, the fact that at the end of the leaning says it's going to be 50.2 to 47.5 still suggests this would be a competitive race. But why this is troubling if you're a John Ossoff or if you're a Democratic supporter is the fact that David Perdue in this poll already has over 50%, which he needs to win. That being said, if that holds, John Ossoff wins all the undecideds. It's 50.2 to 49.8. Well, number one, there will be a recount, so maybe that might narrow, but still 0.4% is not much confidence for a Republican supporter in a typically Republican state. That's not really the best image. So that is the David Perdue versus John Ossoff race. Now we have Kelly Loeffler versus Raphael Warnock. This is interesting to me because in this race, this shows Kelly Loeffler has more support than David Perdue does, which is very surprising to me because throughout all of the 2020 election, it has been proven time and time again that David Perdue is the more popular of the 2 senators. and that Raphael Warnock was the more exciting Democratic candidate of the two. However, Loeffler is overperforming Perdue in this poll, and Ossoff is overperforming Warnock, which is very, very interesting and very surprising to me. If this poll is correct, Kelly Loeffler would win with a bigger margin of vote than David Perdue would. I don't know if this will end up happening on election day, but I mean, this is truly fascinating considering I did not see this coming. And I know many of my listeners, if you're familiar with this race or any of the videos I made in the past, this will be a surprise to you too. I mean, Ossoff does beat Raphael Warnock outright with solid support, and that combined with leaning support, there are some voters, if the margins are correct, 52-45, 50-47, that means there's at least 2% of voters who are supporting Jon Ossoff but not Raphael Warnock, just by doing simple math. 52-45, 50-47, the percentage points is around 2.3, 2.9. There's some voters who are supporting Ossoff but not supporting Warnock, if that is correct. I don't know if this poll is correct. I'm just telling you what the math suggests, but that is very, very interesting if that is the case. The age participation for this. This has a big sampling of voters of 45 to 64, 65 plus, then 35.4, 25 to 34, then 18-24. We'll see if these numbers add up with how the election day vote is coming up in a few weeks. The ethnicity participation, 60% white, African American or black, 34.7%, Hispanic, 2.8%, Asian, 2.1%. And the gender participation, this is big, 55.6% to 44.4%. So this poll was majority women, a majority women poll. Women voters, especially recently, have been trending more Democratic, yet both of the Republican candidates are leading in this poll. Interesting. So to sum it up, how this poll is looking is, this is a Republican insider poll. However, if this is true, it looks like Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue do hold a very close but steady advantage over their two Democratic opponents. Very, very close, but very small and steady lead over them. And it'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks whether or not they'll be able to hold on to this. So that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave it a like. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought of it and who you think is going to win this Senate race. If you do like this video and other videos I have, please remember to subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out and helps me out for future videos as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.